President Trump is weighing his options on the next steps with Iran with his advisors. As the threat of war looms large over nuclear talks between the two nations, the president continues to reiterate his goal of peace through a nuclear deal with Iran, but is also warning of dire consequences if one is not reached. The talks come as the U.S. builds up its military presence in that region. And White House correspondent Kellie Meyer is live with the details. Kellie.
Yeah, hey there, Nichole. So President Trump is weighing military action against Iran today, giving Iran around a 10-day timeline to make this nuclear deal or face the consequences. The president already building a massive armada in the Middle East with more military hardware on the way, and a senior U.S. official telling NewsNation that top U.S. national security advisors were told to expect by mid-March all U.S. military forces deployed to the region to be in place. Now, Iran is expected to submit a written proposal with how to resolve its standoff with the U.S. in the next 2 weeks, but it's unclear how long the president will wait. President Trump called Iran a hotspot and touted this summer's Operation Midnight Hammer when the U.S. took out 3 of Iran's nuclear facilities, saying something much worse could happen if Iran doesn't make a meaningful deal.
They want peace. And now is the time for Iran to join us on a path that will complete what we're doing. And if they join us, that'll be great. If they don't join us, that'll be great too. But it'll be a very different path. They cannot continue to threaten the stability of the entire region, and they must make a deal. Or if that doesn't happen, I maybe can understand. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But bad things will happen if it doesn't.
And President Trump switching the focus back to domestic issues now as he heads to Georgia for a speech on affordability. Nichole.
And Kellie, the president hosting this first ever meeting of his newly created Board of Peace this morning in Washington. What was the main message?
Yeah, President Trump is calling this one of the most important and consequential things that he'll ever be involved in, he says, adding that peace is an easy word to say, but hard to produce. He said this was the first meeting of the Board of Peace created to keep that fragile ceasefire between Israel and Hamas going and plan for post-war-torn Gaza. And joining President Trump today were world leaders from nearly 50 countries. 27 officially joined, and others were called observers. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban and Argentinian Prime Minister Javier Milei, both there, and countries like the UAE, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia, all pledging $7 billion toward Gaza relief. Now, who is on the board has a lot to do with those who declined to join. Some countries didn't like that Russian President Putin or Orban were invited. Others don't want it to replace the United Nations. For example, the Pope expressing concern about that, as well as France's Macron and UK's Starmer. And President Trump has said that the Board of Peace would be, quote, looking over the UN. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the Peace Board is Gaza's only hope.
We have to get this right. There is no Plan B for Gaza. Plan B is going back to war. No one here wants that. Plan A, the only path forward, is one that rebuilds Gaza in a way of enduring and sustainable peace, where everyone can live there side by side with one another and never worry again about returning to conflict, to war, to human suffering, and to destruction.
President Trump saying today Hamas promised him that they would disarm, but Israel has said they would prepare another offensive if Hamas doesn't, and that puts the ceasefire brokered in October into question, though Israel's military, they have frequently carried out airstrikes in Gaza. The IDF says they are in response to Hamas militant strikes. Today is also the first day of Ramadan, so that fragile ceasefire does seem to be holding. Nichole.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.